Welcome back to the show with no name, our last show for the month of November. Today is November 30th, 2012, and I'm Bob Going with Gavin Murdoch and Jim Nikosha. Say hi, Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Okay.
Hi, Jim.
All right. Gavin, you weren't with us last week on Black Friday. What happened?
I had to work. I had to do a 12-hour shift, 8 in the morning to 8 at night.
Wow. We should have done the show over there.
I wasn't there. I had one of my guys wanted to go shopping, so we spent the day down at Crossgates Mall.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it was, yes. Now I know why people don't like going shopping on Black Friday. I've never done it before, and I shall never do it again.
Wow.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I have never done it.
Where we parked, we knew Crossgates was over there. We weren't sure how far over there, but we knew it was over there. You know?
You probably had to park in Crossgate Commons, didn't you?
I never had to use a GPS to find my vehicle before. You know, so that's how we spent last Friday. While you guys were enjoying some camaraderie and banter, I was kind of combating against the crowds of crazy shoppers.
And the elements.
Yeah.
No, it was all right Friday.
No
it was okay
elements.
Friday. Yeah, it was okay Friday.
Wow.
That's why I missed the show, and I apologize, sir.
No, it's okay. I mean, we managed to find things to talk about.
In-laws are always good to have around.
It would fill 2 hours. I don't know. And you notice the girl from Ireland never snuck on the show, because I'd worked her over the day before. We'll put you on. And folks back home can see you.
Now, do they get this in Ireland?
Oh, sure, of course.
I really got in Bulgaria. But
No. All over the world now. I think the only place we're no, I don't think we're permanently banned in the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, but
we're not able to.
We're not able to say do. Okay.
But we can't do Syria now either. They've cut off
the internet.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, turned off yesterday. Yeah, and they're also having problems with cell phone coverage and things. So.
Yeah,
wow.
They cut that out a little bit too. Yeah.
They'll work around that in about 12 seconds.
They'll get somebody.
Yeah.
How are they going to, how are they going to get away from the direct satellite broadcast of the internet? I
don't know.
Technology is amazing. Little Bob flew home from California a couple of Sundays ago. Might have been the Sunday before. It must have been the Sunday before Thanksgiving, because they were here for Thanksgiving, and they now were able to watch network television the whole way. He watched his flight was basically the Jets and Patriots game.
Really?
Yeah. So he was able to watch DirecTV football the whole way without interruption.
Was this in steerage, or was this economy class, or was it first class?
I'm sure it was economy steerage. Yeah. I'm sure they didn't pay for more than steerage to get him back and forth.
Wow.
Oh, so he gets, I don't know. He took a few days off after pretty much, he had 1 day off a week while he was in California. So, then he gets back, and I think somebody called him. They got a job for him in March, another one of these extended jobs. He's going to do an opera.
Really?
He's going to light an opera in Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong. Oh.
They're flying him to Hong Kong to program the lights.
It's a great job he's got, traveling the world.
It's amazing what people pay for.
Yeah.
The guy that I graduated high school with.
But that was only up to 8th grade, though, when you graduated, wasn't it?
I had extended.
Well, he graduated from high school.
He grew a beard. It's all gray hair, grew a beard. He plays Santa Claus in California and different places. He had an agent. He got a job in Hong Kong twice, 2 years in a row.
And they fly him to Hong Kong to be Santa Claus?
Yep.
In this flight with the reindeer?
All his expenses paid.
Wow.
There was extra for the reindeer. They weren't included.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All his expenses plus his pay, whatever he got. But he did it for 2 years. 2 years that I know of, maybe more than that. But can you imagine?
That's fantastic.
Now, they would never invite him to Australia, though. Because in Australia, they don't have reindeer. Santa travels by great white kangaroos. They call them big white boomers. Because it's too hot for white kangaroos. fly them down because it's too hot for the reindeer having the long coats that they've acquired at the North Pole. So in Australia, they go by the white boomers,
How about
big
that?
white kangaroos.
I'm not buying it.
I'm telling you.
What's your basis for this statement?
Rolf, the singer, there's a song called Six White Boomers. You know what? I'll even make I'll make a disc of it for you.
That's all right. That's all right. We'll probably get in trouble with YouTube because I'll want to include it on the show.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyhow, so that's
Wow.
great. People will pay for anything.
Okay.
So, I told him last week that I made 2 batches of bread in my clay oven, outdoor clay oven.
Well, make him watch last week's show. If you want to know about Jim's bread, watch last
There you
week's
go.
show.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
There you go. I won't say anything.
Was it in the first hour or the second hour? Because we talked about food both hours.
I think mostly the first.
I think that one
All
was
right,
in the
watched
first
I
hour.
apologize. I've been
Yeah, I know you've been busy.
busy at work. See, Ron, Vicky's been busy too down at
Yeah.
the controller's office.
I don't know what he's doing actually. Is he busy? I don't know. I see there's a move afoot to eliminate his position.
Yeah.
Let's
special meeting.
let's remove where's Bicky from this issue for a moment.
Okay.
There are a lot of things wrong, in my opinion, with the way the 78 charter was put together with respect to the controller's office. What they did was they kind of combined the duties of the city administrator with the controller. The city administrator was appointed by the elected mayor and basically ran the day-to-day
And
operations
they
of
also had
the
a
city.
treasurer at the time.
And we had a treasurer. So they expanded the treasurer's position to include both positions. For no particular reason other than I think they wanted to get rid of one,
One person.
yeah.
What was Walter Ronchek's job?
He was
He was a
he was
treasurer.
both. He was a treasurer and he was also the first controller under the 78 charter. The problem is it took too much of the executive authority out of the mayor's office where it belongs because you elect him as the executive, and it did a lot of that. The charter also put too much executive authority in the hands of the department heads too. So they sold the charter on the basis that they were creating a strong mayor form of government, and actually what all they were doing was making a busy mayor form of government. But because if you really look at it, the mayor doesn't have a whole lot of executive power for the chief executive. And now by practice they have. But now, I think the first mayor under the new charter was Villa, and Joe Fusella had been the city administrator for quite a while at that point, for most of Gomulka's term, and Joe and Mario got along very well, and the way they implemented the charter was that Joe was made the purchasing agent under the controller, and basically kept doing the same job he always did, which from a performance chart just screws things up all the more, but as a practical matter it worked. In other words, things pretty much remained the same even though everything was called different. But then Joe retired or whatever, and somebody else becomes a purchasing agent, and and then the purchasing agent becomes a minor member of the staff, and then now they don't even have a purchasing agent, even though it's in the charter. The purchasing was contracted out to the county, and they don't really do it either. So it's all a mess.
That's a sham. The purchasing.
All right, so there's that inherent confusion there. Number two, we have an awful lot of municipalities that have to deal with municipal finance under state law, whatever. We have county, we have city, we have villages, we have fire districts, we have all kinds of towns, and quite frankly, municipal financing has gotten too complicated for the number of people who have to do the job.
All right.
There's too many positions where they have to know all this stuff, and not enough people who really know this stuff. And the sad and simple fact is that mostly, in most jurisdictions, this stuff just gets bluffed through from year to year, and the can gets kicked down the road,
And nobody really knows.
and
how much
nobody
money-
really knows what the exact state is.
Exactly.
It got even worse when the state stopped doing regular audits of the municipalities. It was a huge error on the part of the state, in my opinion. Because if you have the professionals in the state controller's office who are in there regularly, even if it's once a year or once every other year, they can, point out this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. For example, the city has an independent auditor that they have come in. But what they do is not really what the state did. What they do is they check and make sure when you say this bill was paid, here's a receipt that goes along with it. Here's a line item it came out of, and this balances off to this. But they're not there to tell you you're keeping the fund balance in the wrong place, or you have all this extra cash that you can't account for, or whatever.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, the city books are an awful situation.
Terrible shape.
And we knew they were in a bad situation 3 controllers ago. So you can't blame everything on Ron, and it may be one of these things you just can't figure out. Take the county, for example, with this
Trust.
the health trust, which is 5 years old. The health trust is something like that. 2007, I think, was our last year in office. It was put in, except it isn't really a trust, and it's never really properly set up, or whatever. But meanwhile, they've been operating under it for 5 years. Well, they haven't kept the records or balanced the books since 2007. So now we've got people going in there and checking receipt against this and to see who owns the $2 million that's sitting in their checking
And
account.
that's only 5 years old.
And that's only 5 years old. Imagine really going back, who knows, decades maybe in the city to try to figure stuff out.
It's I don't know if they ever will. They probably will, but it's going to take a long time. And just because they got a helper in there, an auditor in there to help them, and the guy from the software program in there, I don't think they have enough time to do it. I really don't. Nobody knows where the money is or where it's gone. I showed the 2007 budget. I showed it to the controller. He wanted to see it because I don't know, he probably didn't believe me when I told him. We had set up 3 or 4 different funds, dedicated funds. By state law, you can't use that money in those funds for anything but what we set them up for.
Unless you change it by
Yeah.
local law resolution.
yeah.
Right.
And I asked him, I says, where's this money, Ron? Where's this, $1 million here, $1.5 million here, and it's 500,000. He said, Jim, he said, you told me about it. He said, I've been looking for it. He says, I can't find it. He said, I can't find any record of this. So we come to the house. He said, let me see those papers. I don't know if he didn't believe me, but anyway, he stopped at the house. I brought the thing out, the budget with all the papers. He said, I'm going to have to look again. He still can't find it. He still can't find it. And that was our last year there. And that was the year Ann took over with.
Well, Heather took over.
She took
She
over.
was in a year because she ran 2 years in a row.
Yeah, but she was in a year before the election.
Yeah.
She was appointed.
Yeah.
So, but when they say you got to get somebody with qualifications, Heather was in school. She was ready to graduate from her financial course, whatever it is. Ron has been in it for 30-some years. If you look at it on paper, he's qualified. The other fellow that ran with him or against him was just out of school. On paper, he was qualified. And even if it's an appointed position, the person can have all the qualifications in the world. It doesn't mean he knows what he's doing in a municipal situation.
Yeah. but you have some control over it in any event.
Well, yes, yeah. If he does,
And you know, and I don't know what kind of basic schools they have for these positions. I'm sure they do for incoming controllers and whatever. But this is something where the state is really just got to come in.
well,
I've told the story before that you know, when I was city court judge, there was a problem with our books. It was that resulted from faulty double checking procedures. There wasn't any malfeasance involved. It's just that by not having the double checking, which we inherited from the previous system, you know. That was one of the things that really annoyed me, because when we took over, I wanted to send my clerk, you know, to some. No, just do it.
Class,
You know, and I demanded an audit, and
well, Ron went to one of these municipal financial courses.
But you know, he may be able to
But
keep things organized as he's going through it.
but
the
to figure out
inherited mess
to
is,
figure out what happened before and how much money we have to spend is.
Well, the rumor is that he can't use a computer. That he does everything by pencil and paper.
Well,
Which
so
I
what?
don't know, but
even if that's true, if that works for him, that works for him.
You know? Yeah.
But that doesn't help him find.
No.
Well, look at the basic problem you have when for years they've been ignoring their own budget when they when they pay for overtime with no money in the budget without transferring it.
Yeah.
I've been asked many times in recent months what I think of Mike Ryba being appointed to oversee all the churches. You know, Deacon Ryba is now the financial manager for all the churches in the city of Amsterdam and all the things that go under it. And I said, you know what? I said, I don't know, how holy a man Mike is as a deacon. I'm sure he's just fine. I'm not casting any aspersions here, but of the department heads I worked with, he was one of two guys who always did everything right. And the other one was Rich Liberti. When he was going to overrun his account by 10 cents for a purchase of chemicals or something like that, there was a resolution prepared to transfer and figure it all out. That's just basic administration, right? But other departments just
if you
ignore it.
You go to these council meetings and there's a resolution to take money out of this account to pay for something, and the control says, wait a minute, there's no money there. Now that department head should know, and he says that the department heads know what's in each one of their accounts, but they try to pass resolutions anyway. And he says you can't do that.
I remember, I had a small department, obviously. I still managed to save $100,000 a year off what was previously spent. It's all gone now. We're spending it again. But there was a time when there was you were there, I think. There was a disciplinary matter in one of the departments. Okay, and the department head did not want me handling it for whatever reason. And so the mayor informed me that they were, at the request of the department head, they were going to hire outside counsel to handle it. The people who had previously done the city's labor work. I mean, I had frankly, no say in the matter at that point. It just happened. All right. And there was some discussion when it came up. To pay the bill at the Common Council. And I believe I was asked by the 4th Ward Alderman about it. And anyway, I got a memo from the mayor a couple of months later saying, well, you've overspent your budget for outside counsel by $6,000. Better do something about it. What?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I never approved it. They paid it even though the money wasn't in the budget, and then I got I get blamed for overspending the account.
Now, if we can believe that we're in financial difficulty in this community because of record keeping,
Yeah.
do we not believe that the state and the federal government is in any better condition?
Yeah. Can you imagine?
I mean, when you just throw out
Can you
the raw,
imagine?
the trillion here, they have any idea what they really have, or what they're doing,
No.
of course, but
No.
the same thing is going to be true for the state.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I will say that when those state auditors came in, they really did know what they were doing, and they were really conscientious and showed you what you're
Yeah.
doing wrong and told you how to correct it and things like that. Which is what I loved about when they came in with my situation. Look, here's how you avoid this, da 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 da. And ultimately, they just decided to, because apparently I wasn't the only one in the state who had the similar problem. Mine was like $1,200, and it turned out there was like
More.
hundreds of thousands floating around someplace. What they did was they just at one point they just started from scratch.
Start all over.
This is what you got. And we'll replenish whatever's missing, and you start fresh from today. What they're going to do with it?
Well,
But until you get to the point where you actually know what you got, you don't even know what you're doing.
2 weeks ago, the mayor was on the radio. She said the city is in good financial shape.
She has no basis for saying that, none whatsoever.
Well, she doesn't want anybody to know that they don't know what's going on. See, because with the council members they have now, they have no idea what's
Right.
going on with finances. When I was there, I used to make it my business to know every resolution, where the money was coming from, where it was going. And they didn't like that. The department heads did not like that because I used to question them.
How dare you? Who are you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We had the one department head. They had it never got resolved. He had two employees that were overpaid thousands of dollars
All right.
because of the 3% going back and forth. With those contracts. When it was brought to their attention, the department head and the mayor. Oh well, he says, they said, let it go. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. He said, but this is thousands of dollars.
It's misappropriation.
A few years
community
previous to that, it happened to a couple guys, and they took the money out of their pay every week.
Well, when Major was there,
He's the one who found it.
he was always finding stuff like that. He said, "Wait a minute, you can't do this." And they got in trouble with the IRS. Remember when they were taking the petty cash fund was used to pay for their lunches or something, and it was supposed to be treated as as income to the employee, but because they were taking it out of petty cash, it never showed up.
That's when
They got a huge problem with that.
That was a big fight I had with them because I wouldn't approve. I wouldn't approve the.
Yeah,
And boy,
we always did it that way. Yeah, well,
And I only had one alderman siding with me. All the other ones sided with the department head, saying they could take money out of petty cash without putting the receipt.
It's very frustrating. I mean, Larry.
That's why Larry
wouldn't dream of running for re-election.
And he told Ron. He told Ron. He said, "Don't do it, Ron. Don't do it." He says, "You'll be sorry."
Yeah.
And it only got worse after that. After he left.
He was very conscientious. It would have been an asset to the city if he ran the department because he would have straightened everything out because he knew what he was doing. These other guys don't. He was a true financial auditor.
Yeah. And he wasn't afraid to ask questions, and he wasn't afraid to knock heads. Good, friendly guy, but this is the right way and this is the wrong way, and he'll tell you. He was great to work with, let me tell you.
And when they refused to put the receipts in the petty cash, the state came in. The federal government came in, and they fined the city for improper
practice.
Yeah. There was something else that I had brought to his attention that they came and, employees taking vehicles home full-time.
Right. Well, right, which is also supposed to be
Put
income.
as an income.
Right.
And
Right.
it never happened. I questioned it. Larry inquired. Sure enough, they come back another fine to the city because that's,
It's taxpayers' money, and it needs to be
Yeah.
spent in an appropriate fashion and accounted for.
they had the one guy he had the car full time.
Well, quite a few, actually,
Well,
including
yeah.
the mayor. Yeah. I mean, that's supposed to go on the mayor's income as well.
I don't know if the mayor's doing it now, but
Well, I'm sure she is. I'm sure she must be.
I don't know if she should be, but
Well, she put an interesting thing on Facebook yesterday.
I didn't read it. I just heard it on the radio today.
Yeah.
She insisted that how'd they say it on the radio? You read part of it.
The rumors are false.
The rumors are false. She has a
One of the rumors I hadn't heard before. Is,
long and loving relationship with her husband. Never
yeah.
cheated. You know.
Yeah.
That was going around on Facebook that she was doing these things.
It was going around the city.
Apparently, I don't know. I mean, it was first I heard about it was when she denied it.
I had people asking me
Yeah.
for the past, probably the past
Well,
3 weeks. I said I had
Jeez.
no idea. I said I had no idea.
that's awful.
And then the other one was the job with the state,
Right, the Canal Corporation.
Canal Corp. She says,
Now, see, this is really interesting because the way when I first heard that rumor about her going to the Canal Corp, I mean, I've treated it here as fact because I didn't think there was even a dispute about that.
she says no.
And I can't remember my original source, but I'm pretty sure that my original source was essentially her. In
Well-
other words, her.
Well, we'll put it this
she
way.
telling somebody else.
She's got a little time to go, and there's a time before they make the appointment. Why would you reveal it now if it was going to happen?
Well,
Because you've got all these people under you that are going to say to hell with you. I'm not.
yeah, I know. I mean, I could understand. Yes, I could understand why she would not want it to be public if it were so. But she's coming right out and saying it's absolutely not true.
Yeah.
And it's really confusing because I'll tell you, the people that I've heard it from, it's not like
people in the know.
it's not like Miss Hageman is telling me. I'm talking about major people in the Democratic Party have told me that this is so.
What's her qualification to?
Well, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Well, she's been administrator of the city. Well, that was Brian Stratton's qualification, wasn't he? He ran Schenectady.
So
Okay.
that's a figurehead.
So, I mean, one of the sources, not directly to me, but I've heard it from several people that they heard it directly from the congressman that it was so. So, first of all, I can appreciate her not wanting that out there because, frankly, it would probably nix the job if it was out.
Sure.
If it was for real.
Because somebody out with a little more clout.
And if it's not for real, it's not for real. But I mean, I certainly. I mean, unlike the other rumor, there's certainly nothing negative attached to it.
No.
It seems to me. I mean, I think I would be flattered if I was told I was being considered for a major state position. That'd be great. Even if you don't take it, at least
Yeah.
Yeah. There are people out there who think this will be a good job for me. I'd say, yeah, I think so. So, whether it's true or it's not true, she says it's not true. So I guess we will let it go at that because it doesn't really matter to me whether it is or isn't. It does serve as the basis for all the conspiratorial stuff about why Isabel switched parties and things like that. So for those purposes, we'll probably continue to treat this as a possibility, Mayor. But if you say it's not so, it's not so. Then it's okay with me, and you should be flattered that people are talking about it.
The next thing I heard was
About that
the developers looking at the Chalmers property are walking away from it because they can't go down more than a foot or 2 foot into the soil because of the contamination in the fill that they put in there that was contaminated. That's what I heard.
I thought that was all supposed to be taken away. Wasn't that part of the deal?
No, they,
the
they crushed.
wasn't the yeah, but wasn't the contamination part supposed to have been
There was-
taken care of?
the well or whatever that place was where all the oils and stuff was. That was supposed to have been taken care of.
Yeah.
But the foundation and the other parts of the building was ground up
Mm-hmm.
and used as a
Was
backfill.
Phil? Yeah.
So they're saying that because it's
Well, is that
there's only a foot of topsoil on top of it, they can't go down.
is that going to affect the 2015 opening of the bridge?
Well, no, because
Actually, it might help it.
the bridge,
Well,
It might help it
if you
because
dump it down
then they can use the but then
Yeah,
they
the
can use
bridge-
that land.
the bridge is only to the east a little bit.
Okay, because that's what they were talking about this morning too. The town call announced that was going to be.
Here's
going
my
concern on the
my
15.
prediction. I don't know if I've made this on the air, but my prediction is the bridge will not be built because of the archaeological dig.
Yeah.
Well, are they still looking at that property on the north side?
Oh yeah,
They're still looking. Well, they could divert it to another spot.
it's
They just put another curve in it.
So if they found-
it could be an incredibly significant archaeological site.
Really.
I mean, from what I've heard thus far, and they're really trying to keep it under wraps because I think what they found astounded them.
Yeah, they've got it guarded.
I mean,
really?
if it's
I didn't
true,
know
if it's true, I mean, if it's true what they initially thought, there may be signs of human habitation that go back 5,000 years on that spot.
That's what they're looking at.
I mean, we're talking pyramids,
Yeah.
right? We're talking
yeah,
the time
that
of the
era.
pyramids.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago.
Yes, and that's what. Well, I don't know if they got guards. They've got it.
Fenced off in
It's
there.
fenced off, and no trespassing signs. And if you go down there, you can subject to arrest. That's interesting. That could be.
And to me, that's far more interesting than building or not building the bridge.
Right,
I mean, I just and whether it results in any tourism or development, I don't care. I as a historian, I just flabbergasted by that.
Sure.
If they found that there between the river and the tracks, you'd also have to presume it came back farther onto this side of the tracks. It wasn't
Yeah.
going to be a 10-foot swath of
Yeah,
land
probably
there.
not. Of course, you're talking the mouth of the Chuctanunda, which
Yeah.
would be an obvious place to set up a fishing camp or something,
Yeah.
or a hunting camp, and I would think that the Chuctanunda would have been a gateway into the Adirondacks for them. I mean,
Yeah.
if you follow the Chuctanunda up, you're gonna be at the Sacandaga River before long. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. But you don't hear too much about it.
I haven't heard
because
anything since they.
No, they
made the
don't.
initial
That's
release.
deliberate.
Yeah.
That's deliberate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I said they didn't.
But that's my
want
guess.
anybody down there.
My guess is that's what's going to happen or not happen. And I got to tell you, if what you say is true, it doesn't bother me. I think that land would make just a lovely park platform.
Because you come down the you go across the bridge and you come down to River Street or bridge, and you look out there and
The view is terrific
There's nothing
now.
there.
Yeah.
I was with my wife there. I said, look at that, Elaine. I said, can you imagine that they're going to spoil this view by putting?
Yeah, right. They're going to spoil the view again after finally getting it back. I was up at Michael's house the other day, and of course he's up on top of the hill, and the view is so much better now. It really is amazing.
I was there last week myself.
You were?
Yep.
Wow.
I relented and went to go see him.
Did you?
So I didn't realize he was actually like the host of the talk show last week.
Yes.
Him
and
didn't
Curtis.
invite me along.
Him and
Curtis. Yeah.
They were there 2 hours.
Is that right?
Yes, they were there 2
What show
hours.
was this?
This is on the WCSS.
Really?
Sam
Yeah.
and Van show. They took over the show. Sam and Mike were both away.
Yeah, because of the holiday. Yeah.
Yeah.
They talked about the Mayan predictions and
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we've kind of missed that kind of wacky aspect of the
Yeah.
program
Yeah.
since he left. This will show whether he
But
listens or not.
These two guys Michael must have done a lot of reading about these
You think?
predictions, and because he was rattling off facts. Says, where the hell does he get all this information? And then Curtis was disputing some of the things. They were going back and forth. Now, Michael,
Oh.
it was a good show. For the time that I listened
Friday?
to it, it was
Yeah, Friday. It was Friday. It was opposite us,
Oh.
actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we-
Partly.
So,
Yeah,
no,
yeah. So I'm glad to hear you weren't on that show.
no, I wasn't. No,
Traitor.
no.
Michael's a traitor.
Eh,
Jeepers.
I had to go to get a shot this morning, and shingles shot. So
A what?
a shingles shot.
There is such a thing?
Yeah, I
Oh,
didn't
it's all
know.
over TV now.
I didn't know.
Get these shots to prevent shingles because the virus is inside you.
Well, I've had shingles from the chicken pox when I was 5.
Well,
Yeah.
it's all over. They even got signs up on Walmart.
And I gotta tell you,
shots.
Worse than me, but it was the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life.
In her head.
Yeah, when you have them in the head, I can't imagine that. Mine, I just shoveled snow, okay? And they say that sometimes, physical exertion can just bring it on.
I'm good then.
You're good.
I'm all done with that. I'm all
I thought I
done.
was good. I felt like I'd been shot. Burning sensation went right through my abdomen and to the back.
Wow.
And I was terrified because I had no idea what it was, and it certainly seemed like something really, really serious. I mean, it was not a muscle pull. This was like I had a burning hole right through my body, and the pain lasted for like a month.
The nurse asked me. She says, "Well, where are you heading now?" I said, "Well, I got to go home, take Elaine home." I said, "Then I'll go to our podcast." She says, "Podcast?" I said, "Yeah." I says, "We broadcast on the air." I says, "The other fellow has this set up." He said, "What do you talk about?" I said,
What don't we talk about?
I said, it's most garbage. I said, "But once in a while," I said,
Oh.
once in a while, I said, "We get some serious stuff in there."
Yeah. My wife got shingles right after she came from Russia.
Really?
When we were up in Sable Valley, she got it on her side, and she said it was
Well,
terrible.
I don't understand how the shot works. Is it like set up antibodies because
I have no idea.
because you've got the antibodies from having the chicken pox in the first
Yeah,
place? I
they
don't
told me
know.
to get the shot, so I said, "Okay." You're the
I think
doctor."
they have. They do have a chicken pox vaccine now, right? So, which I think would prevent the shingles from ever happening. I would think.
Maybe that's
If you have
what
it when
they
you're
said.
a kid.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's the
Yeah, but
chicken.
but if you've already got it, how did you get rid of it? I don't know.
Chickenpox. That's the one we had to be in the dark room for, or is that the measles?
I'm not sure. They were very similar. The measles had a smaller footprint.
Because I had one of those.
The
We had
chicken
to
pox
kept it
had
in the dark and everything.
chicken pox had those big
with scabs.
scabs.
Yeah.
You had to stay in the dark.
Had them both.
You had to be
Never had mumps.
quarantined.
Yeah.
Back when I was a kid, you had to be quarantined. You
Yeah.
had to put a sign on your door. You can't go in here. It can't. Oh boy.
And the mumps. Those are the big three we always had as
Yeah.
kids.
I never had mumps.
I had mumps at the end of third grade.
I don't think I was
Finals.
ever vaccinated from it
I
either.
had mumps. I had the mumps. The other two, I think I had scarlet fever. I don't think I had.
Boy.
That's bad news.
Yeah.
My father had scarlet fever. It's what killed him, actually. He had scarlet fever in 1944, and it killed him in 1974
Real wow.
My dad had that too.
from the heart damage.
Yeah.
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 A lot of those things are preventable now. Take the shot.
Yeah, it must be. I've never heard of anybody with scarlet fever.
No.
He had rheumatic fever when he was a kid too, and I remember a
My
girl
brother
in
had
my
that.
class in third grade had rheumatic fever,
Yeah.
and
That's
I've never heard of that since.
I don't know what
killed
that
my,
is.
that killed my brother.
Yeah,
Rheumatic
rheumatic fever?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
One of my older brothers.
You know, it's funny. I got to look into this sometime. This is another one of those Amsterdam rumor things from back then. My grandmother said that my father got sick as a kid from the water. And I just kind of, never thought very much of that. But then I think about it, I wonder if there was some kind of, of course, we didn't have the filtration plant at the time. We had fairly minor chlorination.
Well, it would probably depend on where you were getting your water, whether you're up on the hill or down in the valley.
Well, they were down in the valley. Why would that matter?
Well, because up on the hill, your water isn't flowing from the river or in the creeks going uphill. It's going down to the valley. I mean, it's seeping into the ground, going. I would think.
Well, I don't know. I should. First of all, I don't know when he had it. I do have an old autograph book of his that he was in the hospital, but I think that was for an appendectomy. I got to look into that. That's up in the attic someplace.
Yeah,
It's funny that I've got a bunch of stuff. Like my mother had one too. All the stuff when they were kids. You don't think of your parents ever being kids.
Yeah.
Well, back in the 30s and 40s, many people had diaries and journals. It's not like today where they write on Facebook or not. And
No, that's there permanently now, forever.
yeah.
Right. People have access to it. That's the only you want to have access to. At least your diary, you
Yeah,
You could
you
hide
can
it.
limit it.
Yeah, right.
Who's gonna
right,
read it? You know?
right. Tim Blanchfield used to figured out how to pick the lock on his sister's diary, so he was.
Those locks were so easy.
Right,
You could
right.
put a hairpin in
It was
one.
it was a paper. They used a paper clip.
Paper.
It's the same key worked on all of them.
Yeah, and the same key worked on all of them.
Put a little bend on the
Yeah.
end.
Oh yeah, it was just a little click, and that was it. My brother used to date his sister when they were in high school. My brother Jay dated Kathy. They were valedictorian and salutatorian of the first graduating class of Bishop Scully. So they had a certain personal rivalry in addition to having a romance. So anyway, my brother writes her a letter. And Tim finds out about it, and he can't wait till Kathy leaves the house, and he sneaks into her room, and he finds the envelope. He opens the letter, and it says, "Dear Tim, if you have the audacity to read this letter, I will personally wring your neck. Love, Jay."
They set him up. They set him up. Oh, wow, that's great.
How to get onto that? All the diaries and the kids
Busted.
and
Yeah.
rheumatic fever.
Well, I remember they had the polio epidemic in
Yeah.
Well, I remember those. Yeah.
because we had.
But I remember getting parents keeping us indoors on certain days in the summer.
They closed the swimming pool. down.
A girl a block away from me had polio, developed
Little
polio.
cube of sugar with the
Yeah, that
Well, I
was
remember
that
that.
was in this.
I
60s.
do remember. Yeah, that was early '61. I do remember. I mean, I was 4 when the Salk vaccine came out. But it was such a big event that I have a vivid memory of it. That the parents were so relieved,
Yeah.
because every summer it was a terror. You never knew if your kid went swimming or something. All of a sudden they come down with polio and they're crippled for life, or end up in an iron lung.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them were in iron lungs for years.
Yeah,
I guess they don't use that therapy anymore, but
They used to have the pool down at Harmon's in the back there.
yeah.
On Brookside. And I
They
remember
closed that down.
They closed that down, and that was really the end of it. After they closed
Yeah.
it, they even opened up. People didn't go down anymore. So they used to have the bathhouse down there and the dance.
I was not yet in kindergarten when the vaccine came out, and I remember we all went to the local elementary school, and there were like hundreds of kids lined up getting a shot. And I forget whether that was 3 treatments or 1.
I know that the cube was 3 because we had to go down to
The
Guy
cube
Park
was
after
3.
school. And
Well, you know when we
take
did
it
that,
from them.
we did that after Mass at St. Mary's. Everybody got it, and we'd go after Mass. We'd all troop over to the school, and they had it set up in the auditorium by the last name of your, by alphabet or something,
Yeah.
and you went up there, and they kept the record, and boy,
Yeah, the little pink. I remember it was pink. You know, you take it,
a
everybody.
little sugar cube.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing.
That was a Sabin vaccine.
Yeah. It's amazing all the things that were prevalent and disastrous back then. So many just been eliminated, and you know, there's a few of these old things are coming up because parents aren't getting their kids vaccinated anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
Somebody, what the heck was it? It wasn't that many years ago, 10, 15 years ago. Somebody like out in Nebraska got polio from changing a kid's diaper or something. There was an older guy who had never had the vaccine.
Really? Wow.
And I don't know whether the kid had been vaccinated or something, and I don't know. I forget what the circumstance. Well, the kid didn't have the polio. The kid was vaccinated, but the grandfather, I think, came down with it. But there were people our age.
Got the scar on your shoulder?
Yeah.
People our age had polio.
No, you never got the scar?
Never got the scar. I don't know if I got the vaccination.
I can remember my dad. His was huge. Mine is this little one, but he had a great big one from it.
I think that's what they did. They scratched the skin, right, and put.
The
measles.
The Salk vaccine was a real shot. That was like a needle that was like this long, as I remember it when I was 4. You know. Yeah. You know, it's funny. I remember a kid about 6 ahead of me. They drew blood. The kid's blood's running down his arm, and I'm like, 5 next, and the kid's crying. And I said, "Oh, this is great. This is something to look for."
Turn, huh?
Yeah, I can't wait for my turn. I can still feel the shot. I mean, it was kind of traumatic, but the relief the parents had.
Oh,
when I got my shot this morning, she gave me the shot. Oh, I go. She said, "Kids usually scream louder than that."
I don't know. Did we have smallpox vaccine? We probably did. They don't do that anymore.
What did the Eckert boys get? TB. We're down at St. Mary's. The
Is that
twins.
right?
It was them, and there was another kid at St. Mary's. I think they're on the basketball team, and they were taken out of school for 6 or 8 weeks to go to a sanitarium.
No kidding.
Because of TB they developed. Yeah. I remember that was big to do. I was like, what grade did you come though? What grade did you come to St. Mary's in?
The Eckert twins were like class of '59.
Yeah, they were way ahead of it. But I'm thinking how old
I didn't get there till '60 because they had already graduated by the time I got there. I missed Bill Stanley and the Eckert twins. Vasco was a senior when my first year. Vasco, Alan Johnson. But I mean, boy, they had a string of great teams from about '58 on.
Yeah.
Stanley held the record for most points in a game, and I think most points in a season for a long time.
Yeah.
I think he had 50 points in one game at one point. It was fantastic
back then because they didn't. There's no 3-point shot either.
See, last week some guy hit over
134.
134 points in a game.
A guy in Division III.
Get out of here.
The score was 179 to 104, and a guy on the other team got 70 points, and he didn't
even get a mention.
No,
he didn't get an asterisk.
Yeah, this kid.
Every time he got the ball, he shot.
He was averaging a shot every 20 seconds. He's a 5'10".
Well, I remember when Chamberlain got the 100 points in a game, but that was a setup. He was doing so good they decided to try for it, and they just fed him.
But he shot that night. He was 32 out of 33 from the foul line, which was just incredible in itself for him. And they didn't play on a regular court. They were playing down in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and the court was a little bit smaller, so the distance wasn't as much. And I don't know why they were playing.
Probably for that reason.
I don't
know. It was like that kid out west here, and the kid that was autistic. They kept feeding him.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting
Jason
is the athletic director who was the athletic director at that school is now the athletic director for Amsterdam.
Is that right?
Yeah. He started last summer when the other athletic director left. Yeah.
You know what I just wrote up yesterday? Speaking of athletic directors, etc. For my book, I just wrote up the story of Tony Orapello's grandfather.
I don't know that story.
Oh, well, his grandfather Orapello went in the Navy like in 1916, was a lifer and got out about 1930. Moves to Shanghai, China, Looking for my Shanghai Lil, I guess, in case you want to see a great musical number with Jimmy Cagney from, what was that, Footlights or something? Footlights. Anyway, and becomes sets up like an Amsterdam bar in Shanghai, which was a real international community in those days. You know, it was a port city and just a major trade place, so they had a huge foreign presence there. So he ends up owning 2 bars and marries a Chinese girl, which is how Tony becomes partly Chinese. And has a son, Tony's father. And I think Tony's father's like 12 when the Japanese, when the war breaks out and the grandfather gets interned by the Japanese. Right. Sent to a concentration camp. The family was allowed to visit him once every 17 months for 15 minutes.
Wow.
And then as the war is coming to a close, in July of '45, the Japanese are really pissed off about being bombed constantly. So they decided to move all the prisoners to Japan and put them in places that the Americans were bombing, just for revenge. You know, in other words, taking a. So he gets transported 800 miles to Peking, and from there they were going to be shipped by a Korean ship to Japan. And it turns out, you know, we'd blown up so many of their merchant vessels that they didn't have the capacity at that point. So they stay in Peking for a month, and all of a sudden the war's over. Otherwise, he would have been. And he says in his letter home, still in August of '45, it was like August 20th. He writes a letter to his mother that his mother gets. He says the 3 of us were convinced we'd never see each other again, and he says the atomic bomb saved my life. So the funny thing is, Tony's father grows up and moves to Japan and marries a Japanese girl and brings her home. So he's Tony's half Japanese, a quarter Chinese, and a quarter Italian. Yeah. But you know, you think of these as kind of abstract stories, but when it's really people you know, it's
it brings it home.
It brings it home.
Yeah,
more vivid.
And can you imagine him, like, you know, setting up a Russo's in Shanghai? I remember Tony's grandmother. Do you remember her? Tony was in your class, right? And a very pretty Chinese lady, kind of short, as I recall.
Yeah.
She can't be still alive, can she?
No,
I don't think so.
His mom and his dad.
No, I guess she could be, but I don't think she is. That about does it for the first hour. Let's take a break. More interesting stuff coming up in the second hour, and we're going to have a little more World War II stuff, and Lord knows what else is going to come up. So we'll be. I'm Bob Going with Gavin Murdoch and Jim Nikosha, and we'll be back
later
with more of the show with no name.